Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 56. All debt is spending in the future with interest. Now, think about what debt is. Debt is something that you, when you go out and take a loan on anything, to buy anything, a car, a house, whatever it is, it's you signaling to the marketplace that you're not able to afford what you currently want to purchase. And so what you're doing is you're willing to take on a loan, which is something. So essentially, you borrow from somebody else, and you take on this loan, and you promise to repay it in the future with interest. So whenever you take on a loan, and you take on debt, what you're doing is essentially saying, I don't have the money to do it now, but I'm willing to pay it back in the future through my labors and through my, my hardship in the future. And so all debt is spending in the future with interest. Now, let's think about the national debt for a second. The national debt there's a deficit that our government has. Every single year we have a deficit, meaning that we spend more money than we take in taxes, and so therefore we don't actually pay for our spending. And what we have to do is we have to take on something called national debt. Our national debt, I think, is about to cross the $22 trillion threshold, or 21 something trillion right now, which means that our country has spent $22 trillion more than we've taken in taxes. And what that means is we have to actually create that revenue in the future plus interest, which means what we're doing is we're paying for things today by robbing the future of our country, which is essentially what cultures do when they die. They essentially say, we want something so badly now that we'll tax our children and our grandchildren in the future to pay for it. Now, that should bother everybody out there to a great extent. But think about this for a second. And I'm going to talk about Barack Obama. Barack Obama came into office when there was a Great Recession. And so what happened was there was, I think, $8 trillion in debt, or $9 trillion in debt when he came into being president. And when he left the presidency of the United States, there was approximately $19 trillion in debt. And he also had 0% interest rates when he was president throughout almost his entire presidency, which means Barack Obama had access to unlimited spending, unlimited debt, at 0% interest rates, which were set by our Federal Reserve System, which means they added $9 to $10 trillion onto our national debt. Now enter Donald Trump. Donald Trump enters the equation, and he now has a national debt that is over twice what Barack Obama had, which means the interest payments are twice as much. And then what does the Federal Reserve System start doing immediately after Donald Trump gets elected? December, before he actually was inaugurated, they started raising interest rates for the first time in, I think, 7 years. So essentially, Barack Obama had free money to borrow to create a prosperous economy that will be paid back in the future. Well, anyway, he had 8 years to do it, and guess what happened? We had this kind of mushy recovery. And then Donald Trump comes in, and the Federal Reserve starts signaling that we need to pay back the money immediately. So how does it do that? It starts raising interest rates. And so what happens is Barack Obama had free use of debt, and then they start raising interest rates, which means that now when Donald Trump is president, we're going to have to start paying interest on the debt that Barack Obama got to use. That I would say is probably immoral, but it also shows that the Federal Reserve is not politically impartial. And I can do a whole video on that too. That's no big deal. But anyway, so this is Catholic Dad thinking about it. And in your own personal lives, you have to think about this. When I grew up no debt. I didn't believe in it. I never had a credit card until I think I was 30 years old or something like that. And I just got a credit card to travel with. That was it. But when you buy things on credit, you're buying it on credit because you can't afford it, which means you shouldn't buy it, right? But if you do buy it on credit and then you push the payments off into the future, you're actually paying more money than you would have if you actually save the money up yourself. So all debt is future payments with interest. It's something to think about. And if you learn how to do math in your head or on a calculator, play with the calculator and see how much you genuinely will pay for a house if you have a 30-year mortgage, or something you'll genuinely pay for a house if you have, or genuinely pay for a car if you have a 6, 7, 8-year amortized loan. And so do your best to pay things down with cash. Houses, I know that's kind of difficult, but if you could take on a 15-year loan, boy, you're going to save yourself probably hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your life. And student loans are at really low interest rate, but still, you probably should get rid of them. You don't want to keep them forever because those only die with you. You can't default on student loans, so get rid of those. So this is Catholic Dad. Pray the Rosary daily, get to Mass, and try to get to confession. God bless you all.